So, welcome to ITU Tech Monthly, a snapshot go-to podcast focusing on the latest insights and innovations in the world of technology, which is being brought to you by ITU, the United Nations Agency for Digital Technologies. Now, in this episode, we're diving into the exciting advancements in quantum technology, and we're going to explore how it can be harnessed to improve our lives. And I'm joined in the studio today by Gillian Makamara from the International Telecommunication Union, the ITU, which is where we are today here in Geneva, and we're going to discuss the potential benefits, challenges, and the importance of international cooperation in shaping a quantum future that benefits us all. Welcome to the studio, Gillian.
Thank you. It's my first time here.
Yes.
Scary?
Yeah, there's nothing to be scared about. None of us bite, and we're going to just talk about something that you know. I won't surprise you with anything that you don't, or maybe I will.
Let's see.
Okay. So now today we're going to be looking at quantum technology. Now, it's certainly a topic that's buzzing with potential right now.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we're talking about quantum is very timely, of course, because 2025 is actually the International Year of Quantum Science and Technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to talk to you really about the race for quantum technology and why this is an important race. But perhaps let's talk about something just even simpler than that. What is quantum technology?
I'm going to do my best to explain this because, as you can imagine, depending on who you ask, the answer is either extremely convoluted and makes no sense, or it's too simplistic and it still makes no sense, or it's a mix between, right?
Okay.
So let's break it down.
Great.
What is quantum itself? Just the word. So in science, quantum means the smallest possible amount of something. And in this case, the something is energy or matter. So at this extremely tiny scale, the energy or the matter behaves in a way that's completely unexpected and also sort of unexplainable and kind of weird. And by tapping into some of these properties is how we are able to create what we are calling quantum technology. So what are these properties? You've heard about Schrödinger's cat, I'm sure. The cat that
Schrödinger's
is
cat, absolutely.
and
So
isn't.
it's in a box.
Yeah.
I seem to remember. And is it really in the box, or isn't it in the box? If the box is closed, if you can't see it, is it really there? Is that? Am I getting it right?
Exactly. So this confusion is one of the core principles of of quantum physics, and
Yes.
we call this superposition. So something that essentially is and isn't at the same time. If we translate this to current technology, we work in bits, so either 0 or 1. But when we are in superposition, it could be 0 and 1, right? So this is one of the weird properties that we can tap into. Another one is something that's called entanglement. And I'm sure you've seen twins or heard from twins who said that, I can feel my twin in pain, or I can feel my twin is in a bad mood or something of the sort, right?
Yes, I worry when my cat's outside, for example. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Similar. So entanglement is a connection between two particles of this similar form.
Exactly.
So what happens to one happens to the other. So essentially with the twin thing is, what one feels, the other one sort of feels. So again, I'm trying to go into a very simple way to kind of translate this.
Absolutely, yeah.
But these are some of the really strange principles that we can tap into to make computers faster. This is where the quantum computer comes in, achieve higher security in our internet today, and to achieve even higher precision in measurements. And these are some of the key applications because we have 3 key fields. That's quantum computation, quantum communications, where the ITU is kind of leading the charge, and quantum metrology, which deals with the measurements. So I hope this explains it to you. But if it doesn't make sense, don't worry, you're not alone. There's a lot of physicists who've been doing this for a long time. And even them, they say, you know what? You don't have to get it. If it's not making sense, you're doing great.
I have to say, though, I mean, ITU is a large organization. We've got something like 650 people in the organization, mostly in Geneva, actually. I had no idea that we were even into quantum. I mean, we know that we're into development. We know that we're into standards and that kind of thing. But in terms of quantum technology, I had no idea that there was somebody who had any knowledge about this at all here.
Oh, so that's the interesting thing. You said, we're into standards. So we are in the business of standards for quantum communications. And at the moment, we have 40 of them published, really only dealing with quantum communications and the different aspects there. So we've tackled security aspects, we've tackled interoperability aspects, how different systems can talk to each other, and how to actually build networks based on this. Now, not everything is mature in the quantum space. It's still very, very new. And I know some people will be nervous when I say we are developing standards on this, but we listen to the market, right? So what is currently mature is one key area in quantum communications, and it's called quantum key distribution. And we have a variety of standards there. So what is unique about this and possible about this is essentially it's like a foot in quantum and a foot in current technology.
Right.
It's really based on hardware, so it's quite expensive to implement, but it enables current networks to be able to tap into quantum systems as they can before the technology becomes fully mature. And this is a space that has really grown worldwide. And as you can see, we have 40 standards. That's pretty significant. And we're not the only ones actually studying this. So there is quite a bit of work that we're doing. If you look into it a little bit more, you'll see some very confusing things, equations and diagrams and all sorts of things. But it's a really growing space, and we have different experts participating from different aspects of the globe. So we are really bringing people together to actually develop the technology.
Now, you're talking about growth. Of course, quantum technology today is where AI was nearly a decade ago. Perhaps you could talk a little bit about the parallels between the evolution of AI and of quantum technology, and perhaps maybe we can learn a few lessons from the way that AI has developed.
So I think a key difference is you said that this is the year of quantum, the International Year of Quantum. And
As far as I'm aware, that's what I've been told. Yeah. I don't see big celebrations in the streets about that, but certainly I'm sure with some scientists, they must be overjoyed. Yes.
Depends which streets you're going to.
Okay, fair enough.
So 2025 was selected specifically because it's 100 years of quantum, or at least 100 years since the first quantum paper was published. So it's a really big milestone to actually celebrate this year. And something that you'll hear is two revolutions of quantum. So the first, where it was there, but it just wasn't at the center stage.
Okay.
And now we're in the second quantum revolution, where the quantum technologies are actually at the center stage. This is why it's booming. And it's a very interesting thing that you mention AI, because there's so many parallels. Both quantum and AI are rooted in deep research and science. They have a long history, took a while to grow, and then suddenly boom. Right. And based on this, I think we can pick a few things from AI, because quantum is not quite at the same level right there yet. Right. And a few things that personally I would say would be keen to actually observe is, one, to be sure that we actually provide the standards so that there's trust in the use of the technology and the application in advance, or as advanced as we can. Secondly, I think it's really important to work on skill building and the workforce, because there's very limited expertise out there on quantum technology. Experts are far and few between. And when you know one, you probably know 100 others, which is I've come to learn in my past 6 years. And finally, we really need to encourage investment. Investment could be through financing research within countries. It could also be through financing educational programs. And these, I think, would really be key to ensure that, some of the pitfalls that we see with AI don't happen with quantum.
And you talked about access to quantum technology. I understand that we really need to broaden access to quantum technology to avoid deepening global divides. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the key barriers to access, and how can we overcome them to ensure a more inclusive quantum future?
Right. I don't want to repeat myself, but I think three things again: cost, skills, and awareness. I think these are really key.
Yeah.
When we look at cost, any technology, regardless of what it is, when it's coming up, it's always going to be super expensive. If we think about the mobile phone, for example, I'm a telecom engineer, so I really looked into the history. The first mobile phone was very bulky, ugly, and most importantly, extremely expensive. But we look at the cost of the mobile phone today, you don't have to, get the fanciest gadget out there. But the cheapest one is actually very affordable. So one of the key things that we need to get through is cost. And an important component of this is one of the things ITU is doing, which is through standards.
Right.
When we standardize, it lowers the barrier of entry. It encourages more innovation, so the market will grow. So the technology will be more available. The second aspect I talked about a little bit before is skill building. The expertise is really limited, like I said. It's growing, but it's not growing fast enough.
Right.
So we really need to do a bit more to encourage students to study quantum.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scary thing. It's something that, can be daunting if you think about it.
Right.
But it's really fascinating, I have to say. And I'm coming from a background where I did not have, a purely physics background or a quantum
Sure.
education, if you say it like that. But I think we really need to do a bit more to encourage the growth of the workforce. And awareness is really important as well, because, again, it's a very abstract technology. It's a very abstract science. We need to do a bit more to explain to people what it could actually do. And communication is very key. The way you explain this to a policymaker, to a journalist, to an engineer who's maybe not in the quantum space, it will be very different. So messaging will be really, really key. And we really need to put this into perspective, what quantum can actually do for impact out there.
I was going to say, if the average man or woman in the street basically says, how is this going to improve my life? What would the answer be to that? What would the simple answer be to that?
So a simple way, because sometimes, like you said, you didn't know ITU was doing quantum. Some people don't know that the ITU exists, right?
Exactly. It's true. Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
So when introducing myself sometimes, and I think it's the case for you, you have to introduce what the ITU is.
Exactly. So ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations Agency for Technology, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But for the average person, that's just going to go into the ear and come out the other side.
Exactly.
So
they may understand technology, they may understand United Nations, they may understand.
They still won't know what we're doing.
Exactly, you're absolutely right.
So I found that an easy way to explain things is through comparison. Everybody knows about the WHO, the World Health Organization.
Indeed,
it's part of the UN. Everybody or most people know that.
Yes.
And their focus is on health.
Yeah.
So I said, we are like the WHO. The only difference is our focus is technology.
Great.
It's straightforward. Maybe it sparks an interest like, okay, so what do you actually do for technology? Then it, continues the conversation.
Exactly.
So to the average person in the street, what can quantum technology actually do for me? A very, very simple and practical case I give is through metrology, and in a specific way, because quantum metrology empowers precision. It makes our measurements more keen and can even, measure things a bit faster.
Right.
So if you go to the hospital and you get into the huge MRI machine, the doctors would love to diagnose something and they're looking for something to see, right? Sure. Now we can use a quantum chip in an MRI machine to improve the precision and help the doctors to see things a bit clearer and a bit better. So this is something that quantum could actually do.
Right.
And you see, this actually brings it down to the average person's level.
Great. Very, very well explained. Thank you very much. Now, I didn't know either, but ITU's got a Quantum for Good initiative. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit about that, what it's doing, and then how it's engaging diverse voices and ensuring that we can close technological gaps with quantum technology.
This is a very good question, because I think we're known for the AIforGood initiative.
Indeed, yes.
And the summit is coming up in July.
It's coming up, indeed.
And like you said, it's the year of quantum, and quantum and AI have many parallels. So why not do the same for quantum? So that's why we're trialing it this year in July with 2 half days to explore different aspects and ensure that, one, we cover some of the topics that I mentioned are key barriers. One, to build awareness. We want to put it in a way that's understandable to the general public. We will be covering aspects like actual real world use cases, how it's being used out there.
Great.
We will actually explain in a very simple way what it is.
And this is during the AIforGood Summit?
During the AIforGood Summit.
Okay, so everybody must come to Geneva and
definitely
participate in that, yeah.
And a key piece is we're going to talk about investment, and we're actually bringing the industry to speak for themselves, to actually guide policymakers and people with the money and the influence, to guide them how they can actually invest in the technology. Because it's one thing to say you need to invest, but that's a very simple way of saying a very complicated thing.
So who are some of the major players in this industry? Are they household names?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Do you want to take a guess?
Sure. I don't know. I mean, do I want to take a guess?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, people like Amazon, Google.
Yeah, Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. IBM leading the
IBM.
charge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft, all these household names that we know, they are actually working on quantum. It's just that for the most part, we don't have a commercial scalable quantum computer. They're still working on that. So
Right.
they don't have much to show in terms of what the quantum computer can actually do.
Mm.
We're all waiting. In fact, I actually want to take bets
So
on.
you say scalable because in the past computers were enormous. They took up rooms and rooms and rooms. And nowadays, of course, we carry them around in our pocket. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we would see, or what we actually see, particularly, for example, the IBM computer is
Exactly. That's yeah.
it's quite impressive to look at, but
Mhm.
it's a huge piece of
Of machinery, yes,
machinery, yeah.
of engineering.
And it requires a lot of cooling and requires so much components.
It looks very futuristic, I have to say. I've seen a model of it, and I've seen elements from a distance, but
Exactly, but it's also very expensive.
I can imagine. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yes.
So these are challenges to make it scalable
Yeah.
to, the everyday person.
Yeah.
And this is one of the challenges that we want to overcome, but we have to wait for the tech to be mature enough.
Or particularly, I would say, for educational establishments and that kind of thing as well, that are going to be doing the research on it.
I mean, they are doing research already, and there are programs where you can get cloud access to quantum computing resources.
You don't have to be in the same place at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly. But again, that's also still limited and it's still quite expensive to access. So there's many challenges around this. We really want to encourage the industry as much as possible, but they also have their limitations.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take some time, but this is part of the message that we want to, give out there. There's a lot of hype, but there's some hope, and there are some actual use cases, and we want to distinguish the difference between the hype, where there's hope, and what it's actually doing today. And perhaps this can inform somebody somewhere.
Great. And what about the timescale for this? I mean, how long do you think that this kind of thing will take? I mean, technology seems to be advancing at such a rapid pace. And, we were talking about earlier on about, how AI has advanced in the last 10 years, artificial intelligence. But I mean, what about quantum? Is it just going to be a couple of years before, we're in leaps and bounds here?
So I really hesitate to answer this question.
Just checking for when we should program our next interview, that's all.
Because I don't want to get into trouble. But I've heard 5 years, I've heard 10 years, I've heard 15 years. People have different age ranges.
Yeah.
And I prefer to sit and wait because, again, it's tough for me to say because I'm not doing the research itself. And I do read a lot.
Sure.
But a lot of it is hype as well. And I don't want to fall into that trap. And I don't want to make others fall into that trap as well.
No, fair enough. Good. Okay. Well, yeah, non-committal answer, but that's fine. We'll have you back in the studio at some stage, I'm sure, to give us an update on that. Well, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for. But thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. This wraps up this episode of Tech Monthly, which has been brought to you by ITU, which, for those uninitiated, it is the UN agency for digital technologies, or just the tech place to be, perhaps. I don't know.
Exactly.
Just like WHO is health, ITU is technology. And we hope you've enjoyed uncovering the future of quantum technology and its potential to revolutionize our world here with us. A big thank you to Gillian Makamara for sharing her insights and expertise with us today. And remember to subscribe to ITU Tech Monthly. This is the first episode. We hope you've enjoyed it, wherever you get your podcasts. And for more exciting discussions on the latest technological advancements and their impacts on our world, and do check out our website at www.itu.int. Got to get a plug in for that. So until next time, stay curious and keep innovating. And Tech Monthly is recorded at ITU headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, and it's presented by me, Maximilian Jacobson-Gonzalez, and produced and edited by Jennifer McLeod. ITU Tech Monthly has been an ITU digital production.